Welcome to the world of Mark's Money Mind. I am your host, Mark Troutman. This educational personal finance show combines money lessons, timely topics, personal stories, and community wisdom to help listeners and viewers master their finances to enjoy a stress-free life of financial freedom. This episode was recorded live from CampFI Rocky Mountain Week 3 in Colorado Springs. Enjoy. Welcome to the Mark's Money Mind Show. We're recording here in front of a live audience at CampFI Rocky Mountain Week 3. I once again have my good friend Kevin Sebesta up here with me co-hosting. It's always nice when you're up here. It makes my life a little easier, my job a little easier. How are you doing today? This is like your fourth camp in a row.
I have been here, I just noticed, for 16 days. In a weird little bubble of wonderful. I barely slept, so I was a little dangerous the previous episode. Yeah. So now everything's wide open.
And I was your roommate, and Victor was our roommate, so we had a triple room.
Yeah. We were going to put Victor's bed in the hallway, but he said I would be the one out there, so we didn't do that.
So we have a couple people from CampFI that are willing to come up here. So I wanted to bring up a father-daughter duo. We've got Scott and Zoe coming on up here.
Yes.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming to join us. We're just going to chat.
Yeah, just a regular conversation, just like our hike. So why don't you tell us a little bit, Scott, about your background and, maybe how you came here to begin with. What's the story?
Okay. I'm from Minnesota. I'm a physician assistant, and sometimes the hours can be long. And I have been interested in FI for about 10 years and was sort of going along at a kind of a heavy pace, doing some moonlighting and, picking up extra shifts and things. And then the pandemic came along, and the kids were out of school, so we bought an RV and we took a 6-month sabbatical and did Zoom school on the road, and it was unpaid, and just kind of reset with a lot of things in life. And it helped me to see that time was a lot more important to me than right now with my kids, while they're still young, than moving forward faster towards retirement.
And was kind of this financial independence always on your radar, or how did that kind of come to be?
Yeah, to some degree. I read The Millionaire Next Door in the 90s.
One of my favorite books.
Yeah, loved it. And I didn't grow up, I'm not a natural saver. So it took learning some mistakes in my 20s to really kind of see there's another way of doing this. But yeah, I've been inclined towards this for a long time. And then I had some heavy student loans to pay off, and that took a little while to get back to zero net worth. But yeah, it's been something that before we knew there was a FI movement, we were both kind of interested. My wife is a natural saver and kind of built that way. And yeah, it was sort of like a relief when I saw that there's this word for this thing, and there are these people that are doing this thing already and have done it successfully.
And if I understand correctly, there was a stint of time that you spent overseas.
Yeah. So we were, my wife is a public health researcher, and her work brought us to Rwanda. We lived there for a couple of years. When Zoe was 2.5, we moved there, and she was, almost ready for kindergarten when we moved back. So I was a stay-at-home dad. So that was a sabbatical where for just over 2 years, I didn't know if I was going to be going back to work. We didn't know for a while if I would be working ever again, because it was kind of administratively or bureaucratically difficult for me to work there. And I kind of loved it. I was a household manager. Like, we had like a lot of expats living overseas. We had some house staff that it was my job of keeping them busy and successful in what they were doing. And I was running errands for Zoe, running her around to school and stuff, or preschool. But it was mostly my first glimpse at I can go for a trail run when I want to, kind of thing. And that was pretty powerful. Yeah. So I took an accidental sabbatical between jobs for about 4 months, a few years before that. So I've had 3 sabbaticals now, and each time I kind of feel like it's a trial run at what retirement is. And since the last one, in fact, since my first CampFI, I decided I wanted to scale back work a little more. So not only did I stop moonlighting since we came back from the RV trip, but I'm also pared down to 4 days a week. So I have Fridays off. And I always tell people, like coworkers, they'll say, well, we'll see you tomorrow. And I'll say, no, tomorrow I'm retired. Yeah.
Would you say that you are fully FI or on the way to FI, or no
Yeah.
numbers, but just kind of curious where you are in that journey?
I think we could lean FI now, but we're not interested in that. We kind of want to.
I like this concept of kind of slowing down life, from a professional perspective, and not like running to FI before you're going to do anything. So, and it sounds like that's kind of the approach that you took.
Yeah. I kind of like Carl Jensen has talked about how he has some regrets about sprinting towards FI and then realizing, what am I doing now? And I kind of, before I heard about it from Carl, I kind of figured out that, not to brag, but I kind of figured that on my own, where I realized what I'm interested in is I'll still retire before the average retiree, but maybe a few 2 or 3 years later than I would, but I'll have a little more relaxed journey on the way, and I'm really enjoying it.
Did your overseas adventure shift any of your spending, planning, thinking, or was it just a different experience that you added to your life?
It was a very different experience because expat life is such a singular thing. Like the way you spend money is so different there because living in a developing country, everything is set up differently. Like every utility bill is done differently. And so I'm not sure. And the other thing is, like we would have done it for a long time, I think, if circumstances hadn't sort of changed things. But it sort of turned out that, Andrea's father got sick and we ended up going home quite a bit to see him. And we just kind of realized that we were always going to be going to the United States for any time we had off. So it wasn't as great an opportunity of a jumping off point for travel as we kind of had hoped because of just the way life worked out for us. I don't know.
What about the future? Do you seek the adventures again in your future?
Yeah. So one of the things that we've thought about doing is volunteering either with an NGO that we know in Honduras or with the Peace Corps, maybe after empty nesting, like when we retire, is spend a year or 2 years just doing service work in some way that we can be useful. And most of those opportunities, you sort of have no real opportunity to spend a lot of money. And so it's sort of intended to also be a protection against sequence of returns, at the beginning of our retirement. Might allow us even to retire earlier with, who knows?
That's a whole different type of coast-fi then. You just go live in the jungles or something.
Yeah.
That's a different strategy. I've never heard that strategy. Jungle-fi. or like,
sure.
I don't know what that would mean. So you feel by adjusting your work schedule and enjoying your life now rather than full speed ahead to the magic light switch of FI, has that felt better to you? Do you think that's a good decision because you've been doing that for a few years?
Yeah, I started off just doing it every other Friday, so I was a 0.9 full-time equivalent for a year, and already I really loved it. Like I would think, on Monday morning, it's a 5-day work week this week. It would suck so bad. So yeah, every Friday that I'm off, I sleep in a little bit and I spend a little bit longer looking at, reading in bed before I get up. And I really lean into being aware of it. And the rest of the day often ends up being errands and appointments, which is fine because I'm not doing those on Saturday and Sunday. And that way, when Zoe and Stella are home from school, I have more time with them,
Before we introduce Zoe, I want to say, is he different with his new schedule that you've noticed?
I think he is. He's always like bragging about how tomorrow's a Saturday. But yeah.
TGIT.
Yeah. He is, like, I can tell he's really enjoying his time slowed down and like it's cool. Yeah.
And so my question for you is, did you come here kicking and screaming, or was this your idea? Or I'm curious as to why you decided to come, if it was even your choice.
Yeah. So a few months ago, my parents were just like, we think it's a good idea. You should come to CampFI with us because they've done it the past couple of years, and I've known what it is, but I've always just been like, oh, they're going to their camp where they talk about money. And so they're like, I think this is a good time in your life where you should start thinking about these things. And it's really fun. So I was like, okay, sure. Yeah, sounds good. And I didn't really know what to expect, but it's been great. I've learned a lot. So
yeah, I'm curious, like, what is your take on this whole thing and what maybe have you learned or, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like it's really cool to experience like a lot of different people's perspectives around money. And like people don't really talk to 18-year-olds about money. And I think it's really cool to see all the different places people started learning about this, and like people have so many different backgrounds, and like, but they still all have the same like thoughts about this thing, and it's cool to just see that, and it's really inspiring to see people with similar thought processes and like dreams.
Have you noticed there's talks that are not about money with the people?
Yes, that's another thing too. Like it's been really inspiring. Like today there was a speech about like other aspects of FI, the speech that Roger did. And that really stuck with me, like thinking about more of it as like a way to live your life how you want, and like a way to examine your values and what you really want and like what's important to you. And it's like already made me think. And I think a lot of the stuff is going over my head, but I know that like I understand the psychology, and I feel like later the more detailed stuff is going to be like, oh yeah, I remember learning about that.
I've spent time with you. We've played board games and we've talked, and you fit right in with everybody, even the old people like me. And so I think it's amazing that you're here and you're fully joined in. You've been around morning to evening. I'm not sure why with people like me, but I want to say it's remarkable. You're remarkable. And I mean, you have the whole world ahead of you. So
I wanted to kind of dig in a little bit into kind of how you guys brought Zoe up and kind of more the financial side of things. I'm always interested in how families kind of set the next generation up for this kind of concept, or even just little things that you might do. I think you mentioned you had an allowance and you were responsible for spending that on certain things and kind of had to manage that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when I was 13, my parents started paying me allowance, and like probably a bigger allowance than like most kids get, because they wanted me to start learning about like saving and spending. And I had to pay, since then I've had to pay for like everything, outings, haircuts, clothes, everything. And it has taught me a lot about like, oh, I have a haircut coming up, I need to save my money. And also at the beginning we set up like this percent should go to like savings and this percent should go to charity. I've also like, I took that forward with me too, because I had a school trip this past year and I had a winter job. I got paid really low, but I like saved up all my money for this trip instead of spending it. Like it has brought forward values. They've taught me values for sure, about like saving up and spending things on stuff that we really value, like travel. We've always been lucky enough to be able to go amazing places, and that's been something I've been raised with, like spending money on things that you really value. And yeah.
Have you shared with your friends how you budget and plan for your spending? Do they understand this?
Like we talk about it. It was really cool when I was saving and making and paying for that trip, because I'd always be like, yay, like I paid for more of my trip. And I think they like understood my excitement, and it was cool. Like we talked about it. Yeah. So
one question, do you have a Roth IRA yet?
Not yet.
Oh, so Dad.
Well, we actually just
talked. He has earned income.
This is on our schedule for next Friday.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Yeah, because that was one thing that I did with my daughter. We did not do the kind of, we did an allowance thing, and she saved money and stuff like that, but not to the extent that it sounds like you did. Did you find that to be beneficial? I mean, would you recommend other families kind of institute that process?
I think so, yeah. Like, it definitely taught me budgeting and saving, and yeah.
So back to the Roth IRA, and it sounds like you're doing this. This is one thing that we did for my daughter is when she had earned income, we would kind of put the money in her Roth IRA on her behalf, using that earned income as a justification for doing it. It sounds like you're doing that. And
Yeah, we will be. Yeah.
Okay, not to put too much pressure on
Yes.
you, so.
I think there should be pressure to do that.
Her sister actually is 14 and wants to get the Minnesota State Fair is a big thing, and they hire a lot of teenagers.
I've been to that.
Oh,
It is
cool.
quite
Isn't that
cool.
great?
Yeah, when we went to CampFI Midwest, we took a trip over there afterwards. It's quite the
It's
event.
a real state fair, and she thinks she may have a job lined up for working a few days there. And I told her, if we set up a Roth for you and we fund it, if you make $500, and then I told her about the rule of 72, and kind of said, by the time you're 61, it could be, I parsed it out,
Right.
it could be this much. She's like, I am in.
Well, that's interesting because
Yeah.
a lot of younger individuals are like, who am I going to be at 61? I can't think about myself at 61. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool that she was
Can you think of yourself at 61?
next year. Yes. So Zoe, it sounds like you have an interesting year coming up. I'd like to hear a little bit about that decision, what you're doing. And it sounds like, are you like fluent in French? Is that what I understand?
Yeah, I am. So next year I'm taking a gap year. I just graduated from high school and I'm taking a gap year in France. I found an au pair job. So I'll be living with a family and basically being a live-in nanny for their kids. And I get paid
4 or 5 hours a day, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seemed like a great gig because I don't have that many hours. I get paid a little bit, but for me, it's like not even fully like really about that because I just want like the idea for me to. So my mom took a gap year, and my parents have always been like, "Oh, if you want to take a gap year, you should." Like, they've always encouraged it, and I decided, I don't know when, that I wanted to, because I was like, I don't want to go straight to college after high school. I don't know what I want to do, and I don't want to go do more school after all that school. So I just, and I really want to travel, and I grew up in a French immersion school, so I've been speaking French for a long time, and I was like, okay, this is perfect. I can go to France, and I found I wanted to do it through a job, and then I can really like work on my French skills and experience just
to
other things.
brag as her father, she has passed one of the French national fluency tests. She could go to university in France. That's her level of fluency.
Is that one of the thoughts? I mean, I know you got accepted to an awesome school here in Denver, and it also sounds like you got some merit and they were holding your place. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think some of the students like that I teach in the high school, they may not even know that this might be an option for them. So maybe you could expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, so when I was looking at at colleges, because I knew that I wanted to have a plan for after my gap year, I was looking at colleges that would allow me to hold over scholarships for my gap year. And I'm going to the University of Denver, and basically you can just check a box that says I'm deferring, and then all my scholarships will hold. And even if like the scholarship that I got, even if that one goes up in price, mine will too, which is awesome. But some schools like wouldn't let you hold over. So if you want to do a gap year, I would strongly suggest looking into that ahead of time.
I want to go back to the life you're heading into for the year. Do you want to share the work schedule that you get to do that allows you to have probably amazing weeks? Can you share that quickly?
Yeah, so I just need to pick up the kids at like 4:30, and then I'll be with them for the evening until they go to bed 5 days a week. And that's pretty much it.
Well, actually, on Fridays, it's even better than that.
Yeah.
It's not quite 5 days a week because you'll pick the kids up from school and go straight to the train station and meet their grandparents near Notre Dame Cathedral, and then you'll be free.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a good gig.
Yeah.
So what should we call that?
One-upping dad's schedule.
For sure. I know anyone I tell about her schedule. They say, do they need a doctor to do this next year?
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm so excited. Like, it sounds like a dream. Like, it doesn't even feel like it's real. I'm really excited.
They picked you for a reason.
So any other thoughts that you have about maybe your experience here at CampFI that takeaways or anything
Or
like that?
previous campfires.
Or
that we
yeah,
crossed
possibly
paths.
the other ones.
Yeah, it's so inspiring to be here. Not only to learn from you guys who are sort of preceding us in the retiring early, but from the people who are just getting started and want to hear about what these concepts are. Like, it takes so much courage to come here and lay yourself out open and say, I'm ready to take on this really big project. And it's just really a great environment. It really does feel like a summer camp environment where everybody is out of their normal routine and gets to kind of think about their own lives differently. Like, I actually, I've been at 3 now, and at each one, I've felt like I'm looking at myself from above, where I can see like, oh, these are the things I really like, and I'm not paying enough attention to them, or these are the things that I find tedious and maybe should drop more, you know?
And Zoe, what do you think? Is this something you would consider doing again sometime in the future? Or?
Yeah, I'd say so, definitely. And I would love to bring my sister here in a few years to see how she would like it. It's been really interesting and really good. And I genuinely have enjoyed talking to all these adults and just getting to know people's stories and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Well, I know that Stephen is scheduling another one in Spain.
In France?
next year. And
Nice.
maybe
No,
not
yeah.
France.
No.
I think Italy or maybe
Portugal?
Croatia might be on the list. We're pushing for Croatia. So maybe you can join us there one time. There was one other question.
How do you say CampFI in French?
Yeah. How do you say how do you say financial independence in French?
Yes. You can think about that, and if it comes up, we're okay.
L'indépendance financière.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow. That gave me chills. I don't know why.
Well, thank you both for coming up here. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing you again at one of these events, and
Yes,
certainly
you
Zoe
again.
and maybe your sister as well. So thanks again, everybody.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
round
Thank
of
you.
applause. Thanks.
That was so good.
All right. Our next guest up here is Lauren. So why don't we welcome Lauren up here? And the big question is, which side is she going to sit on? Ooh, sitting on my side. See
Safe
that,
side.
Kevin?
Safe side. You know, I made a note. Behave. It's my only note.
So, Lauren, why don't you tell us a little bit about, your story, maybe a little background, and yeah.
Okay. I am from Northern Virginia originally. Just 2 years ago, I moved to Wilmington, North Carolina. I am just leaving a federal career of 15 years, which has been in diplomacy and international development. And I have been on the FI path since 2011-ish, so coming up on 15 years. And that started with really big student loans that felt absolutely crushing to me. And at that time, I didn't anticipate a lengthy career in federal service. So I wasn't thinking about any of the forgiveness or any of those. I just felt like I wanted to be able to make choices without feeling like a bank owned me or that I was in it for my employer's terms 10 years or more down the road. So it really was about freedom, as it is for many of us. That was my why of FI. I wanted to live more on my own terms. And I was introduced to financial independence and the FIRE movement by my first boss in that federal career, again, in 2011, which I looked up today and is the year that Mr. Money Mustache started. So it was the same year that he started that someone mentioned that to me, as well as Vicki Robin and Your Money is Your Life.
And so Pete's blog, I presume, and that book were pretty influential. Any other kind of resources that you kind of latched onto around then or anything like that?
No, back then I think it was Mr. Money Mustache and kind of the lessons in frugality and keeping lifestyle lean that enabled me to accelerate my loan payoff, right? That was the big goal at the time. It wasn't sprinting to financial independence and stop working. It was get out from under the loans, which I did in 5 or 6 years. And then I thought I was going to make big life changes at that time. But then I said, well, of course I need an emergency fund. And then I kept moving the goalpost on what that emergency fund ought to be before I let go of such a secure income. And I also had more hit my stride in that career. So I wasn't as anxious to make an immediate change, but it did immediately open a lot of space to start thinking about, if not this, then what other thing might I like to be doing with my time? And so that's been over 10 years or around 10 years. And that got me really thinking a lot about personal growth and introspection and living intentionally.
Were you on the journey? We've talked and you're very intentional. You have structure. Were there others with you on the journey? Because it was so early on and you were young to do this, or did you just brave this world yourself?
I had no idea that I could be doing this in community until 1.5 years ago when I went to my first CampFI, Mid-Atlantic, which is where Mark and I met. And I was sitting, looking out at the beach in Topsail Island, North Carolina, thinking, maybe there are other people out there who are at a similar stage thinking the same way. And somehow I could go to a place and hang out with them. And I Googled, I think I had heard that there was another meetup like in the Pacific Northwest or so anyway, it was just Google search terms that happened to come up with CampFI. It was January. I bought a ticket for May and had no idea what it was going to be like or what it was going to do to fortify me.
And as I recall, you did a case study there, and there were, I think, 105 people or something like that. What possessed you to do a case study at your first event where you weren't even sure that this community existed? I'm curious about that.
I think there was something that felt a little bit anonymous about it, because if it was 100 people who knew me in my day-to-day life, that would have been more nerve-wracking. But I just saw it as such an opportunity to get some confirmation that the strategy that I was using, that there wasn't something major that I was overlooking. And I have been too cheap to pay for professional advice.
It's not advice, it's just, friendly hints and
yes.
education, but
yeah. So I just saw it as the opportunity to get eyes on from people who had been thinking a lot about this and maybe seen other case studies and stuff. And I just couldn't let that opportunity pass by.
And I wasn't there. Rarely do I not have Mark next to me unless he somehow makes a left turn and I missed that. What did you take from that? Did you feel good about that? Did you feel questionable? What were the results? And then we'll talk towards how you got here a year later.
And the timing is great. The convergence of things that have been coming together in my life with the work change, hitting some financial goals, and finding community is really beautiful. So I went into the case study with 1 or 2 relatively minor technical questions, which Mark readily answered. And one question that was more like, can I give myself permission? And it was a resounding yes from the panel and from others in the room. And quite a few people came up to me afterward and said, our numbers are similar. Thanks for doing that case study, because it gave me some info kind of indirectly. But yeah, I think I was permission seeking and wanted to make sure I wasn't making a mistake, even though I think my internal wisdom knew it's fine to make that choice, to make a change at any stage in the FI journey, and that I was far enough into it that I was going to be fine. And the way that I describe the place that I'm at is I have enough to do anything, but not enough to do nothing, at least not indefinitely. And So the permission that I was asking wasn't, can I quit and, sit by the pool for the rest of my life? But it was, can I make a big change and reinvent myself and do something different work-wise?
Did you internalize that and attempt or forecast a change for yourself, or did that just opportunity happen later?
So a lot has happened over the last 18 months. And by the way, that CampFI, I think, was a month before my 41st birthday. So I was technically still 40 at that time, and I hit my first FI goal like that month.
Oh, wow.
And then I moved the goalpost a little bit, and I have
Good for you.
recently hit that second FI
yay.
goal.
Yay.
But things have changed majorly in the federal space. And so while I was kind of working up the courage to make my own pivot, there's been a major pivot in what it's like to be a federal employee. And I did see that writing on the wall last fall. And I said I was working, or that I was living in Wilmington, North Carolina, so I was working remotely, and I knew that it was highly likely that all federal employees were going to be required to be on site. My job is in DC, and so this was the moment where I had to make a choice between the lifestyle that I was really enjoying and the security of that job and career. And so I decided to advocate for my team, for our programs, and then to resign after I felt like that case had been made. So I am now six or 7 weeks into not working. And as it turned out, that was very wise, because I went out on my own terms, and others who didn't make that choice are also now unemployed.
Yeah, and it sounds like the fact that you set yourself up and you found these, tools, this concept of financial independence allowed you to make that decision for yourself. And that's one of the things I think is kind of like the superpower of financial, not necessarily financial independence, but just the idea that you have financial security or some backing. And that was my experience in my work career. And I presume that was the case with you as well, right?
Yes, my overwhelming feeling this season has been gratitude to people like Pete, who thought about these concepts and published that work and made it available. People in this community that have a lot of knowledge and are freely offering that as education. And gratitude to my younger self for applying the principles. And right, it's been a 15-year journey, so that was a consistent choice to choose optionality, to choose to be able to pivot when things weren't suiting me. And I think that this silver lining, if there is one, is that it cured me of what likely could have been one more year syndrome. Right. I really struggled over the last 5-ish years as I was contemplating making a change, because, right, I don't have to wait until hitting my FI number. I could have made a career change at any time, or I could have taken an extended break. And I think there's lots of options and permutations to use your resources, right? It doesn't have to be hit your 100% number. But I'd really been struggling with letting go. And it's a lot easier to make a change when it's being forced upon you, or it's really evident that it's playing out and, let go or be dragged.
You and I talked a little bit about you being strong and you being adventurous and you just going for it and doing new things. Can you share a little bit about how you've reflected on this new state of your wonderfulness and what you're doing now and how you're just taking that on?
So I'm definitely embracing the opportunity to reinvent. I keep getting asked, what's my plan? I don't have a plan, and I've always been a girl with a plan, whether it was a career plan or a financial plan. And I am probably doing the exploration and experimentation that I didn't really do in my 20s. I felt that I needed to be much more responsible. I've always been someone who sets my sights on something and works backwards to implement the plan. And so now I feel like I've cracked things wide open, and 40 is the new 20 for me. And the FI resources allow me to do that. But as everybody in the FI community either knows or discovers at some point, the finances are one part of it, and the inner journey of deciding what you want to do with the rest of your life are really different. And in some ways, the second part, I think it never stops. I've evolved a lot in recent years. I expect that to continue. What I'm doing practically right now, I already had travel planned this summer. I spent 2 weeks in Scandinavia last month. I'm here in Colorado for 2 weeks. Next month, I will either be in Nova Scotia or Michigan. I need to book those plans. But I'm also really into learning and growth. And so I'm experimenting with 2 different education programs right now. One of them is I'm doing the externship, which is a 2-month case study, basically a mega case study in financial planning through Amplified Planning, and you get 500 experience hours towards the CFP credential. So I'm not at all committed to becoming a financial planner, but I'm exploring, do I like how that feels, applying that knowledge. And what is really awesome, in addition to getting to practice some of the function of being a CFP, is the exposure to 50 professionals who have different paths. Many of them are also career changers, and they have different business models, different niche markets. And so it's, I think, a really efficient way. I actually wish this existed for many other careers, because I think it would facilitate career change and make that less intimidating if you could try something on in an intense way for a couple of months to feel it out. The other thing that I'm doing is a certificate in positive psychology. So positive psychology is basically the science of human thriving. And there's a lot of research, a lot of evidence-based practice about what is the formula for what makes a life well lived, what makes the happiest people. It's also sometimes called the study of happiness. And it's the opposite of what a lot of psychology has been historically, which is taking disorders and helping people get to functional, get kind of to normal. And this is the high side of it. And it builds a lot on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're familiar with that, and the pursuit of self-actualization, which I also think converges with the conversations in the FI community about purpose.
I think I sense a fire in you to do new things versus the fire to just leave a career and not do things. So you have the opposite fire but the similar energy, but you're taking 2 adventurous paths. You're doing so many of other things together. You light up when we talk about this, and because of your strength and the 15 years of foundation you built, you're not going into this afraid, you're going into this with the power. And I don't know if anybody can see on the video, because you're helping other people just like you did with your case study. But the fire of doing this is remarkable, and it just seems totally different from what we talk about fire. I'm guessing you have more than these 2 activities on your list of things to do. Is that correct?
I might also become a marine biologist.
And I love the concept you were talking about, overcoming fear with trying new, uncomfortable things. And I think skydiving was on that list, if I recall. But tell us a little bit about that, kind of getting out of your comfort zone or how you're tackling these things.
Yeah, so one of the major themes within my personal growth, I try to introspect about what's holding me back in my own estimation, what's between me and realizing my potential. And that has nothing to do with achievement. It just means being the utmost Lauren-ness that I could be. And I realized quite a while ago that I was really pretty inhibited, and I was playing it safe in a lot of ways in life. And I was man, I don't want, I think there's a book, this is not the exact title, but it's something about an unlived life. I don't want to get to the end and say, I wish I would have. So I became a student of that, and I started like investigating it and trying to unpack it. And I read lots of research from psychology about fear. And what I ultimately discovered, not from the books, but from my lived experience, though the research also supports this, it's basically exposure therapy. And many of us lead so much in our lives with our thinking mind. And that was totally me. And it got me, the resume success, and it didn't lead me to fulfillment. And I didn't feel like a whole integrated person, meaning, right, I wasn't really in touch with my body or my emotions or my spirit. And so I kind of tried to design a program for myself to do the most uncomfortable things that I could think of. And this is actually a great point, because I took 6 months off from work and I did all of the things that I could think of that I was afraid of. And some of them are really mundane and kind of embarrassing to say, but like they were like, try an improv class, dance. Those are things that are like a little out of my comfort zone. Riding a scooter, going zip lining, taking surfing lessons. And one of them was going skydiving. A really great coach recommended that to me. And she was like, for a lot of people, it's kind of like a near-death experience. It is so exhilarating that it shocks your system and you can have moments of like super clarity. And I totally did. I was in a tandem jump with, a professional, and on the way down, as the chute opens and I'm feeling this like extreme relief, I'm just like, oh my God, I have all of this stuff that I want to do. And it was like what flashed before my eyes was not the life I have lived, but it was like that unlived life. And that really emboldened me. But it also wasn't like once and done, right? You can have a moment that really makes an impression on you. But if you let too much time go by before you act on that, you can kind of like lose the thread. So I continuously like practice things that are less exhilarating than that, but still like somewhat risky. I'm into surfing, I'm into scuba diving. All of those things get me into my body, out of my head. And they have moments where my nervous system gets activated in fear, and I coach myself through that moment and say, I can handle this. I've trained for this, and I can handle it is pretty much what positive psychology says you should say to any worry.
So you're going to jump out of a plane? Have you done that?
Hell no.
Yeah, me neither.
No.
I'm not so sure.
No, I don't want to see the ground rushing up on me. You mentioned you had a coach. First of all, I sense you're out there just doing things. Did the coach help you stay within guardrails from all your stuff? Because you don't seem to sit around and not challenge yourself, which is what most people have coaches to guide them. Did your coach narrow your focus, or how'd that work for you personally?
So I've worked with different coaches over the years, a couple of different times. I highly recommend coaching. I think in my circumstance, I think it was better than therapy in the sense of they often challenged me to take action, and my instincts were to do more research and plan. So yeah, it wasn't about narrowing me. It was about challenging me to like just do it already and cure the perfectionism in me, which is not cured, but is
Mark,
better.
You should jump out of a plane.
I'm not jumping out of a plane. It's not going to happen. But I do try to do other things that are outside my comfort zone.
Yes.
So maybe we'll just think of other
Ground-based. Let's do
Ground-based
ground-based
activities,
things
yes.
that scare us.
I do like Via Ferrata, though. Have you done that? You are going to do that.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm going to be the one. Someone on the hike said, "Is that a snake? Is that why you stopped?" I said, "No, you didn't hear me squealing, so it's okay." So, I mean, different people tackle different things and different adventures and fears. Some people don't. And so it's remarkable that you did. I had no idea you did like a dozen of them in a row, and built that. I guess leaving your careers is scary for us, and you changed the fear, tackled the fear, have new goals. You're very goal-driven, clearly, and that's wonderful. And I talked about curiosity, and you seem to have a wide range of curiosity. What are you looking forward to that? Let's talk about later in life, right? Because you have a long life ahead of you. You're young, you're independent, financially independent, but you seize the independent side. Have you envisioned a longer term structure on this? I'm just curious because sometimes I think about that and I don't know how to do that.
Not very long term. Like if I kind of try to imagine where am I going to be 10 years from now, where am I going to be 20 years from now, where am I going to be 30 years from now, it gets increasingly fuzzy from there, right? I have a great local Choose FI group, and I also got some courage from them because they reminded me one of the reasons that I can make moves at 42 is that I have a lot of opportunity to go back to work or to do other income producing things. Like they said, the chances that you don't do anything income producing for the next 20 years are pretty low. So don't feel like you have to kind of do once and done on retirement. The two things that I most craved and wanted to make space for in my life are learning. I wanted to be able to spend my days following my intrinsic motivation to acquire knowledge and skills. And I wanted to move my body in nature. So a lot of that is ocean focused for me. But I like to come to places with mountains or go to the desert too. So those are the things that I feel like I need to get out of my system before I have an onward plan, because that's what I've been yearning to do along the journey of FI. And it would be really interesting to have a conversation 10 years from now if I've been doing those things for a bunch of years to say, like, do I still want to keep doing that? Or did I hit a point of like enoughness for that? But I guess I think that I'm just going to keep learning. Probably that will involve like projects or organizations where I apply that learning to help contribute in some way. And if those are meaningful enough, then it may be multi-year endeavors. Oh man, I read this great article. I don't remember the name of the article or the author, but it was about an 80-something-year-old whose life resume, not just the things that he had done work-wise, but where he had lived, and somebody in here I think has like a captain's license. He had all kinds of things like that, scuba instructor and stuff. And the author asked him, how did you manage to do what seems like living multiple lifetimes in one person's years? And he said, I managed my life in 5-year increments, basically anticipating letting go. So year 1 was like getting curious and interested in something. Year 2 was learning about it. Year 3 was getting hired to do it. Year 4 was making a contribution in that area. And year 5 was shutting it down or handing it over to someone else. And like, whether it was really that clean, but I loved the philosophy of that, of not thinking there's one next thing I'm going to do. I think that's super useful for career changers to say, like, it doesn't have to be the one thing you do for the rest of your life, but just like, what's next? And I guess if I envision the long term for me, I think it'll probably be increments like that, where I'm kind of obsessive and intense about something for the season. And when that season's over, I can give myself more permission than I have so far to just let go when the juice isn't there anymore.
I love that concept. I mean, I have not heard that approach before, but I think that's very doable for somebody that has kind of the financial independence or the financial security to do it. And so we met last year at CampFI. You were a case study participant, or the case study. This year you were on the panel. And so I thought that was pretty cool. I will really look forward to our paths crossing again and seeing all the cool things that you're doing. And I know for sure that you're going to be just, shooting for the moon, and it's just going to be awesome. So looking forward to that.
I call myself a slacker, but I feel motivated. So of all the things you're doing, you should add motivator to the list. And that's very special. And for Zoe, you're amazing. Scott, amazing. I just feel like, and everybody else here, all the other 68 people, there's so much I've learned, and I've been here for 4-week sessions, and I don't even, it's a wave of energy. So thank you, all three of you, for coming up here and sharing. And now I have to do more.
Yeah.
On ground, on land.
Yeah. So, and this is pretty much the end of our CampFI. So hopefully we'll see, many of you here next year. I know the tickets are selling super fast. So get your tickets if you don't have them already. CampFI.org. And Stephen, thank you for putting this event on. We've had a great time here and looking forward to many more. And Lauren, thank you for coming up here. And let's hear it for Lauren.
Yes.
And Kevin, one last thing. Let's see, where are our paths going to cross next?
You mean like next Thursday?
Yeah, isn't it like next Thursday?
Yeah, I said to Mark, I said to
that?
Mark, I'm going to see you on the Amsterdam Tulip Cruise. He goes, I'm going to see you in Dublin next Thursday. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So
we are definitely enjoying our post-FI or fully FI or retired lifestyle. And yeah, we'll see each other.
And without you, I wouldn't be doing half of these things.
Yeah.
So we motivate each other, but not quite as well as those we have with us talking.
So see you on the other side of the pond.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for listening to this week's show. Please click follow on your favorite podcast player or subscribe on YouTube to ensure you don't miss any future episodes. Also, please leave a rating and review for the show. This helps improve the ranking and enables other like-minded people find the content in their podcast players. If you would like me to answer a question on the show, please send it to mark@marksmoneymind.com and put podcast question in the subject line. Let me know your first name or let me know if you would like to remain anonymous. I would also appreciate it if you would recommend this show to friends and family that might benefit from this content. See you next time on the Mark's Money Mind Show. Until then, make some, save and invest, live on the rest. Now for the all-important disclaimer. This show is for education and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered investment, tax, or legal advice. Please consult the appropriate advisor or advisors before implementing anything you hear on this show or any other show for that matter. While I fully intend for everything on this show to be true and accurate at the time of each recording, occasionally errors may occur. So please do your own due diligence on anything discussed.